Wolf Pack, what is going on? It's your boy, the Wolf of Roto Street, rotostreetjournal.com. We breed and feed you fantasy wolves. Here with your Week 14 daily fantasy DFS DraftKings show. We'll talk about optimal lineups. We'll talk about the top stacks, run it backs, the top games to target, the chalk ownership projections, which guys to eat and fade, some bargains, some mid-price blowups, all your good stuff. You guys know the deal if you've been here for our DFS shows in the past. We'll get you ready to hopefully win that $1 million. We do focus on this show on GPPs, on tournaments, really the high-priced big-ticket tournaments as well, because we're all going for the big money here. So if you'd like that talk, come on down, ask any questions you have for Week 14 as well. I'll answer any sit starts, any of that stuff at the end. It takes about 15, 20 minutes to rip through all the DFS stuff, and again, the rest of the show is for you guys. So any questions you have, get them on in. Let me know. I'd be more than happy to answer anything as we talk through this. But let's get into the fantasy football, daily fantasy content specifically. What games do I like to blow up this week? I love the Vikings and Bucks, 53 over under. I think that one is going crazy. I think it's going to hit 60 points. That's the game I am targeting the most in DraftKings, going all in on stacks with Tom Brady, maybe some Kirk Cousins. We will see. Ultimately, that's the game I am peppering. I do love the Titans-Jags, especially the Titans on that side of it. They're going to put up 30-something points, no doubt about it. I'd say 35 for the Titans. And I think the Jags can put up 20 on the run back there. So I like Jags to help them cover that over-under. I like some cheap-ass Jags like Colin Johnson and people we're going to talk about in a little bit. And I also think that Cowboys Bengals, it's only 43 over-under. Wouldn't be surprised in a Dalton revenge game. Ooh, everybody terrified of the Dalton revenge game, right? I wouldn't be surprised, though, to see the Cowboys put up a nice, 25, 30-ish points on this bad Bengals defense. And I think the Bengals have some firepower to run it back. Obviously not Brandon Allen at quarterback. That hurts. But still, you just got to distribute it. Let Tyler Boyd go do his thing. Let T. Higgins do his thing. I could see that game definitely beating that 43 over under projection. So those are the three games that I think are locks to hit their overs. Let me know if you have other games in mind, Wolfpack. I did love the Chargers and the Falcons as well, but no Julio obviously limits the upside of that pathetic Falcons offense without him. I think Matt Ryan has been no higher than the quarterback 25. I think they average 13 points or something, even worse than that, potentially, without Julio Jones. So I'm not necessarily going after that game quite as hard. I do still like my Chargers, but just running it back and all that good stuff. And with that all in mind, with those games in mind, let us now cover our
Murray fires touchdown, and it's DeAndre Hopkins.
Top stacks and run it backs. And Wolfpack, if you don't mind giving this a thumbs up, regardless of where you're at, YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, it is so greatly appreciated. Helps us get out to more people, answer more questions. We got 5 of them already in here. Awesome. So great to see some people interacting on a Saturday morning, wherever you're at, whether you have that quarterfinals matchup coming up, or you're just trying to get your daily fantasy fix because you're out of it. Hopefully, let us know what's going on. Let us know how we can help. Let's keep crushing, Wolfpack. My favorite value stack of the week, I always like to start with Jalen Hurts at 5,100. I mean, all he's got to do is run for 60 yards or so, and he's going to pay this off already. Yes, the matchup's brutal. The Saints is a tough welcoming to your NFL career. They've been just absolutely stifling these last few weeks, but still, the Konami upside's there. We saw him run for 30 yards in just over a quarter of play. I mean, there is legitimately 70-yard upside here. We've seen Taysom Hill, the number 3 quarterback in fantasy since he took over as a starter because of the leg points. It's not because of his arm. Let's be real. And Hurts' arm is solid. It's good enough. He's obviously the air raid helped buoy his numbers up in college. But we saw that touchdown strike over the shoulder. Made a couple nice deep bombs to Jalen Reagor. There could be a little bit of upside. So I like the cheap options you could stack him with. Goddard, Reagor. If you need to save money to get up to those studs, the Devontae Adams 9,300, the Derrick Henrys at 8,700. This is one potential way of doing it with a value stack of this nature. And I like Thomas on the run it back. We've seen him eating with Hill 2 out of the 3 games at least. He's been a beast. And then Kamara 7,100. I know it's risky, but at 4% ownership, if we get that blow up Kamara day, he's going to be so underowned. And at 7,100, I mean, you're typically paying 85 or so for Kamara's services. I don't expect him to blow up. I prefer Thomas if I'm picking one or the other. I think he could roast an injured Slay this weekend, but I still love this, the value side of the Eagles there. I alluded to it. I do still love Justin Herbert. I would like him more if the Falcons had their full firepower, but he's going to bounce back. I mean, everybody's going to be a little bit hesitant. If you told me 3 weeks ago we were getting Justin Herbert at under 7K against the Falcons, the worst, most points allowed defense in terms of quarterbacks, and then Keenan Allen under 8K as well, you could stack those guys up for that cheap, you'd be frothing at the mouth. But just because he had a shit his pants effort last week, and he's been mediocre since Eckler returned, a lot of dinking and dunking, not so much the sling it out Herbert. There's a team you can sling it out against. It is the Falcons. They are pathetic. They are abysmal. I think good old pizza face Herbert bounces back and gets back to his old ways. And I don't love the run it backs. I mean, Ridley's kind of the obvious one, 7,500, no Julio Jones. He should be showered in targets, but the whole offense takes a big hit whenever Julio's out. Maybe a sneak to Gurley at 4,800, just a value running back. Good shot at 1 to 2 touchdowns. Nobody's going to own him because he's been a bag of trash. But he's been a bag of trash against the hardest run D in the league. So there's just not a great run it back there. That's why it's not the preferred stack of the week. I am, as I alluded to in the over-under, going all in on Brady. He's only going to be about 5% owned just because Herbert is only $100. He's $100 cheaper. Yeah, Tannehill $200 cheaper. Nobody's going to be going to Brady, and I think Brady has 35-point upside this week. The Vikings corners are atrocious. They're going to be out without their top linebacker, top coverage linebacker, nonetheless. And Kendricks, he's going to be out. So Gronk at 4,800 could be the top scoring tight end on the slate. I know on our Wednesday show, he was my lower of the tight ends. And then when Kendricks got ruled out, I've now bumped him up like 5 spots in my ranking. He's towards the top now of my list at 4,800. Huge upside. Love AB at 5,500 bye week to really just kind of get him fully acclimated. Tom is peppering the guy. So him, Godwin, fully practicing, the fingers back to full health. And I mean, Evans at 6,600, he's going to be the least owned of these guys, especially with the hamstring scare. We'll talk about him in sub 5%, though. Nobody would be surprised to see him score 3 touchdowns against this Viking secondary at such low ownership. So there's just tons of just slate contrarian upside to Brady, to these weapons around him. Godwin, the most projected high owned of them all. They all could eat. And then you obviously have those Vikings on the run it back. I like Thielen at 7K a little bit more, but if you have the extra 400, of course Jefferson is an absolute horse, an absolute savage these last few days. I mean, have you ever seen this is almost historic, the rookie pace this guy is performing at. Absolute stud. Some of these double moves, I mean, it's like it's Devontae Adams reincarnated at times. So I love Jefferson. I love Thielen. You could go 4 of these weapons for your 3 receivers in your flex, and I think it's a good move. I really think this is the game to target and pepper. But let me know what your top stacks are. Am I missing somebody, avoiding somebody? Let me know what you think. Now let's talk about some high projected ownership with our chalk talk of the week, the guys that are supposed to be the highest owned according to fantasypoints.com's projections. Love that site. And they got huge discounts going on if you just want a couple weeks passes here. Give it a look. You got your guys, Scott Barrett, Grant Barfield, some of the legends there over at Fantasy Points. But the top chalk of the week, who's going to be highest owned? Which ones are we eating? Which ones are we fading? And if we're fading, where are we pivoting? Let's start with Derrick Henry at the top. He's projected to be 26% owned. I honestly think it's going to be higher than that against the Jags. It's a joke matchup. Everything is aligned for a 200-yard, 2-touchdown Henry day. It could happen. I'm going to play the dangerous dice roll game of I'm probably fading it and pivoting to Aaron Jones and hoping he's the highest scored running back at half the ownership against Detroit, an even easier matchup than the Jags. And at 7,600, so you save yourself, $1,100 a budget. Well, that's all good, check boxes for Aaron Jones, who already had a 40-point day against Detroit. Yeah, maybe they'll sell out to stop him this time, and then it's going to be Adams who goes off, who's also the next highest projected guy to 23% owned. But similarly to Henry, instead of those 2 studs, particularly at their prices, 9,300 for Adams. Could he go 37? Probably. I had him last week. He was amazing. Who doesn't love some Devontae Adams? Yes, he's incredible. But I still think I'm going to pivot, go to Aaron Jones. I think he's going to be the one that has the 30-point day. And Henry could still have 30 points. Maybe I should try to have both of them in my lineups, to be honest. But I like the lesser ownership, the cheaper price of Aaron Jones. That's where I'm going to be going when I pivot. David Montgomery at Houston. I don't hate this at all. The 3rd highest projected, only right under 20%. Those are the only guys, Adams and Henry, projected over 20%. So there's nothing over the top chalk. No like 50% Dalvin Cook or anything of that nature. It was actually only 7% this week. Jeez, you could go crazy. Montgomery, though, Houston giving up the most rush yards. We talk about them every week because of how much of a smash this matchup is. And he's been taking advantage. I hated on Montgomery long enough. But, man, I can admit when it's like, am I wrong? I don't know. I don't think he's that great of a player. But when you get this much volume against this bad of defenses, the points shall come. We saw it last week, over 25 fantasy points. I think we could have another one of those days. Now his price is $1,000 more, so that's why the ownership's drive down a little bit. But still, I think he's well worth this price range. So I'll have him some way. More often, I'm going to pivot to a little bit cheaper of a Taylor, 5,800, 7% owned. And we've got back-to-back 20-point days in his last two full contests. When is the time going to come where he just gets everything? Hopefully this week against the Raiders, giving up the third most points to running backs, fourth, right in that range. Wilkins is 13 useless fucking touches. As soon as those go all to him, and it could be as early as this week, we're going to get a 30-point day. And the fact that his price only went up $100 after a nice 22-point effort last week, I'm all in. Give me some Jonathan Taylor, 7% ownership, a little bit cheaper than Montgomery. That's where I'm often pivoting to. So my backfield is going to be Aaron Jones, Jonathan Taylor. Let's find out how that goes. I love Corey Davis at 19% ownership, 5,700, a great play. But the rest of this list to round out the top 7, Gaskin, Curtis Samuel, I'm not really going into any of those guys. I don't see that much of a ceiling with Gaskin. I like the nice floor cash games. Makes sense. He's the ever down guy, and everybody else is still dinged up there. Curtis Samuel, I don't see why he's this high owned. Like 5,200 is a solid price, and DJ Moore is going to be out. But I'll go Robbie Anderson if I'm going to go anybody for that wide receiver appeal, especially with the ownership coming in the way it is. So that rounds out our chalk. Let me know if I'm crazy for fading Henry and Adams. I might be a psycho. Probably going to get punished for it, but you can't win it unless you roll them dice. And so we'll bring us up now to mid-price blowups, focusing on the running backs and receivers who could go crazy, who could 5 times their salary and get you 30-point days. So let's check it out. We already talked about Montgomery against Houston. Too cake of a matchup. I like Ronald Jones, particularly with Kendricks out 6,100. I am going in on the passing game, but if I want to hedge with the lineup, I don't mind Ronald Jones at all. I think they could ultimately steamroll on the ground if that ends up being the flow of the game. I don't expect that, but I will have at least one lineup, probably with Herbert at quarterback, where I have Ronald Jones in there. We talked about Taylor as a second ago, but Las Vegas, a cakewalk matchup for a guy that's only seeing his workload increase. And it should be even more so. Hopefully those frustrating Jordan Wilkins touches just disappear. And even if they don't, on the limited work, Taylor, he's thriving as a receiver. He's getting better and better, more decisive as a runner, more broken tackles each and every week. I do like Drake at 5,500. The Giants are pretty good in the secondary, pretty good in the pass rush, but you can bleed them on the ground. So I like Drake to do some damage at 5,500. Probably finds the end zone once, and if he finds it twice, then you got yourself a great value at that price. And Gio Bernard, as we talked about at the top, in the games I think could go crazy, that Dallas and Cincinnati game is nothing to fret or nothing to get away from, in my opinion. At $5K for Gio, don't be shocked to see another 15 to 20-point Gio day. It's been like 3 weeks now since losing Burrow. Of course, that makes sense. Of course, it correlates. But when you're facing Dallas, it doesn't really matter who you have at quarterback. You're going to be able to move the ball. That defense is abysmal and pathetic. There's not a whole ton of mid-price guys at running back. I feel like you got to get your Aaron Jones, your Derrick Henry, all at 7,500 or more. James Robinson, 7,500. This isn't a week for your mid-price guys. You're getting, one of those guys in Jonathan Taylor, one of those guys and DeAndre Swift at 6,500, I guess, could be on this list should he be fully healthy. At receiver, there is a bit more options in the mid-price range. I did say I love stacking that Bucks game. So, you've got your more expensive Vikings guys. But Allen Robinson, 6,800, great spot for him. Houston's down their top corner, Bradley Roby, suspended for PEDs. Just a sev of a defense. I think Robinson could definitely have one of those crazy 2-touchdown days, a target hog with Trubisky. You got Godwin at 6,300, fully healthy with a banged-up Mike Evans on the other side of him. I think he's the top play of your Bucks receivers. Wouldn't be shocked at all to see a nice 120-yard, like 10-catch, maybe finds the end zone as well, type of monster effort. Anderson, as one of the few men standing there for the Panthers, could be in line for a big day, but I'd rather go cheaper for Davis or AB, and especially I like Crowder and Ayuk too. right in that sub-6 range, I think is where the sweet spot is for this week's wide receivers, and a couple just great bargains we're going to talk about in one sec. I love Corey Davis, but he's also the most projected owned out of these guys, so I might pivot to AB, 7% ownership, fresh off the bye week. Don't be shocked to see a nice 8-catch, 100-yard day from AB. And then Crowder, if he plays. The calf injury is worrisome, but only 4% ownership coming in for Crowder. Facing off against Seattle, you know they're going to need to chuck and play comeback mode. Have they been better since Adams returned? Sure, of course this defense had nowhere to go but up. They're still, as a whole, giving up the most points to receivers on the year. We've seen Crowder be a top 20 receiver 3 out of his full 4 weeks with Sam Darnold, 2 of those being top 8, one of them being last week with 2 touchdowns. So I like Crowder a lot. And Ayuk is just a beast. 5,400. I'm not overly concerned about this Washington matchup. Yeah, they've been pretty good against receivers all year. Definitely, I mean, second, third, fewest points to the receivers. This is a different offense. They use Ayuk in different ways. I like him at that price range for sure. Now, let us get into our top bargains of the week. Under that $5K price point for running backs and receivers, $4K tight ends are under, and any QBs. We've already talked about a few of them. But sub $5K backs, McKissick's the obvious one, 4,900. No Antonio Gibson. He's got 3 10-target days already with Alex Smith. That's over half the games, and that's with Gibson on the field for most of those. You know he's going to catch 8 to 10 balls, so already the floor is just so high. Cash game-wise, McKissick is a shoo-in to lineups. Tournaments, I'm probably going to pivot because the ceiling is fairly limited. Could he find the end zone? Absolutely. He did play over 2/3 of the goal line snaps, even if it was Barber plunging in for that sickening gross touchdown. But I like McKissick. He's going to get you 12 to 15 points as locked in as pretty much anybody at that price range could ever be. And the ceiling, if he finds the end zone, could be even 20 points, which would make him a smash play. The ownership is pretty high on that, though. So tournaments, I'm going to be fading most likely, but I do love that price range. Duke Johnson, 4,800. I hate Duke. I think he's a loser. I'm not going to use him personally, but with no David Johnson this week, just wanted to put his name out there to get him on radars. He can catch the ball, obviously. And they're lacking weapons. I mean, what if QD is ruled out? Then Johnson would be very appealing to me. I do think Gurley is hideous. It's ugly. The ceiling seems pretty capped, but he's got plenty of 20-point days on the year. Chargers are not a good run D, bottom 10 in points allowed. He could find the end zone once or twice. If he finds it twice at 4,800, that's going to be a steal of a price. And then Gore is now expected to maybe go. He hasn't practiced all week. But if he doesn't, Ty Johnson's only 4,700. He had over 100 yards, 22 carries, ran the most pass routes, was the every down back. Played, almost 40 snaps compared to the next closest was I think 18 for Josh Adams. So this is the Ty Johnson show. Should Gore be out? And Seattle's now down back to bottom 10 in terms of points allowed. They've really been struggling over the last month against running backs. So those are some great value backs to consider to give you some cash space. Plenty of receivers as there typically are. Boyd, I have a sick feeling in my gut Boyd's just going to have like a 30-point day, and no one's going to own him. Maybe it's that 72-yard touchdown we saw last week. If he hadn't got ejected, he might be 25 fantasy points on that day. There's no way you're getting him at 4,900. And I think it's an even easier matchup against the Cowboys. I think he's going to run wild. I think we're getting 25 points out of Boyd. He's going to be my pivot from McKissick in tournaments. It could be one catch for 15 yards and ruin all lineups. Absolutely. That's the risk. That's why you got to go. That's why he's coming in at 4% ownership. But against the Cowboys, I think that risk is significantly lower. And I think he could go crazy, running wild. He looked just as healthy as ever on that run. So I like Boyd as a pivot. And if you don't like him, Mike Williams against Atlanta could definitely catch a bomb or two. Tim Patrick, 4,200. He's more of a tournament, just like safe, steady, 13 points, 2 touchdowns last week, though. So there is tournament upside as well. Now, Perriman at 3,900. He was a huge flop. He was my value player of the week last week, and he sucked a huge cock. But now, if everybody's out, I mean, we already know Mims is out. So it already opens up a nice share of targets for Perriman, specifically because they play a very similar role in the offense, stretching the field. But now we got Crowder questionable too. If that's the case, I don't know how you can't have Perriman in as the number one option on a team that's going to have to throw just relentlessly to keep any type of pace with the Seahawks. And we've seen him shoulder number one duties plenty of times in the past. I do love Colin Johnson as well, though, 3,600 for the Jags. He's led the team in receiving back-to-back weeks. He had that training camp. I'm a huge fan of it, huge believer in it. that like second team, scout team rapport with Mikey Glennon. They talked about it. They talked about how they practiced as hard as they could in case they ever got their numbers called upon. And that chemistry is as real as can be. It's clear he's going to him instead of Chark, instead of Cole, instead of LaVisca, who are all more expensive than Colin Johnson. It's going to be Colin Johnson who scores the most points, racks up the most yards, and does it at the cheapest price point. I'm all about it against a Tennessee defense. I think Colin Johnson might be my favorite value play of the week. And if Crowder sits, then you got Braxton Berrios, who fills right in for the slot, 3K. I bet you he gets 80 yards and 6 catches at 3K. Bam, 5 times your money, like already. So I like all those guys as some sub 5K wide receivers. Let me know what you think of these bargains. I do like Jordan Akins and Cole Kmet, both 2,900 at tight end. My typical construction, I don't have a set formula I always follow, but I particularly like punting tight end and just hoping for a cheap touchdown. Yeah, you can go Kelsey, get yourself some sure points. Certainly punting tight end last week and not having Waller put me on the outs looking in, only a couple cashing lineups, unfortunately, last week. But it's just my strategy, and it's worked out for me more times than it hasn't throughout this year. And I like Akins the most, facing that awful Chicago team against tight ends. Solid against receivers. They're down Buster Screen, who covers a lot of that middle of the field here. Akins is playing some slot snaps, which is where Screen would have been lined up. I like Akins at 2,900 quite a bit. I think he finds pay dirt at least once. Cole Kmet, though, on the other side of that game, could be a nice play. Houston's certainly nothing good on defense and certainly have lost 2 of their top cover guys. I'm all about that. So 2,900 guys are where I'm typically leaning. Sometimes maybe if I save a couple $100, I can get Irv Smith in there if he plays. It seems like Rudolph's gonna sit. He'd be the every down guy. And as I talked about, I think that game goes berserk, which means Irv Smith is in a good spot to put up some points. And Dalton Schultz for cash games, averaging over 6 targets per game, right around 5 receptions per game. Nothing sexy about it, but a good matchup where he could just get you your safe 10, 15 points. 15 would be if he scores, of course, because he's not going to have more than 50 yards. But Schultz, an intriguing play against the Bengals, getting just bludgeoned by tight ends. And last but not least, and then on to all of your questions, Wolfpack, is sub 5%, those hidden gems that only you have, and they rack up the points, and only you're benefiting from them. That's the best. It's, of course, when you have chalk and it goes crazy, it's like, yay, I got the right chalk. But it's when you hit those late gems that nobody else has. Not really late gems, but the guys everybody's overlooking with huge upside. And we've talked about it at length. The Bucks, Brady at 5%, Gronk at 3.5%, Evans at 2.3%. Like, a contrarian Bucks stack, I think, is the Millie making ticket this week. We'll find out. We'll see. That's the game I'm going all in on. It's going to take a big set of balls to put Evans in over Godwin. Certainly more than I probably have. But that could be the play. What if he goes 152, like nuts Evans day? Absolutely in the realm of possibilities. I'm probably going to be going Gronk and Godwin or AB Godwin, something of that nature. But I think there's got to be at least one Evans lineup out there. Just because of how crazy he could be. And again, Brady, I think, goes 350 and 3 to 4 touchdowns, has one of those just nuclear Brady days, fresh off the bye, fresh off a lot of doubt and hate coming his way. Nothing better than Tommy B, as you can tell here. I'm a biased fan over here, but I think he's going to go berserk down the stretch. And Gronk with Michael Kendricks out, if that 3.5% holds, like Gronk could be the 2-touchdown guy. We've all seen that. He's got like 14 or more, and I think 4 of his last 6 or something crazy. I don't understand why he's going to be as low owned as he is. I already talked about Tyler Boyd, but T. Higgins as well at $100 cheaper if you need to save that 100. They're both projected under 5% owned, and I think this Cowboys defense could provide a nice blow-up spot. It's so gross being tied to anything named Brandon Allen. Is it Finley? I don't even know who the fucking quarterback is this week. It doesn't really matter. It's whoever just gets Boyd his chances to knife through that awful tackling defense, to burn those corners deep. I like Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins to go pretty berserk. DeAndre Swift, if he plays, 6,500. There's so many good options. The safety of David Montgomery, for example, at 6,500. So nobody's going to be on Swift. And if he's full-time against Green Bay, I mean, he's averaged 19.5 fantasy points across his last 4. Is take out the game he got hurt in. The last time out, he was a 70-something% snap player, handled all the receiving and running work out of the backfield, had almost a 16% target share. I love Swift. If he's playing 6,500, it's a big risk to go all in because he might only get a handful of series. He might play, get hit, and be like, fuck, my head's just not straight. Big risk. That's why he's coming in so loaned, and that's why he could be a tournament-winning play because no one else is going to be on him. Very few people will be willing to stomach that risk. I certainly won't put his faith in all my lineups, but similar to Evans, would be nice to have a lineup. Maybe I'll have one with Evans and Swift in it. Some contrarian guys that could blow up. And last but not least, Crowder. The fact that he's only 5,400 shocking because he's getting the easiest matchup for receivers. He's fresh off a 20-something point day, and he's had 3 out of his 5 games with Darnold have been 20-point days. And he's still only 4.8% owned on top of the cheap price tag. Now, he might not even play, so this could be wasted analysis. But ultimately, I like Crowder at that price range, at that ownership for sure, in a script that should favor his game style, dinking and dunking, and probably getting into the end zone. A goal line beast there. And that will bring us now the mailbag. So now the rest of the time, your guys' questions. Let me know what you got, and let's chat some ball. Here we go, folks. Sup, Wolf? What's going on, my man? Shady ass. I'm happy you're here for the DraftKings show. I want your takes here because you gave me Sheffis last week. You gave me a bunch of great guys to consider. So let's know who Shady ass has out there. Lost Julio. Oh, Connor, that's brutal. Diggs and Adams, though, you have Diggs, Adams, and Julio. My good Lord, those receivers. What is this, a 5-team league? Oh, that's pretty sick, Connor. Well done. Pittman and Cutie, thinking of going with them, 2-flex league. I would like to know who your running back potential options are, but those are both solid backups for Julio. And is it full PPR? Remind me, Connor. I forget what exactly your settings are. Neither of those guys are bad options. I particularly like Cutie of them. I mean, what did you have? 8 catches, 140 yards. He'd be probably my favorite play, a little bit above Pittman, but they're both good options. And for 2 flexes, I think you could definitely get them both in. But what running backs do you have? What defense do I roll with? 49ers at Panthers or Cardinals? I like the Panthers, Bailey Fields. 17 and 19 points in their last 2 games. Now, Denver giving up the second most points to defenses. They're big defenders. Shaq Lawson, Derek Brown, I think his name, the D tackle. Both those guys are back and off the COVID list. That was kind of the one worry. Is like, is this play going to still pan out? I love the Panthers. I love that they're 2,900 on DraftKings too. Everybody's going to be all in on the Seahawks at 3K, deservedly so. I'm going to pivot and go to the Panthers, and I think they could be a sneaky source of some good points. Do I trust Dalvin Cook? What reason do you ever have not to, other than the injury risk? And if you play the injury risk game, then every single person could get hurt any given week. Yeah, Dalvin's is a little bit higher because we've seen him crumple, and he's ultimately been fine. It's terrifying. But yes, of course you trust Dalvin Cook. Yeah, the Bucs have a pretty good run D. That game's going to have its points. He could do some damage in the receiving game. There's no Alex Madison, so there's that much more. Not that Madison's like this huge suck of his value, but he had 38 touches last week, Dalvin Cook, without him. Yes, of course, Bailey Fields. You are absolutely trusting Dalvin Cook. Unless you have Aaron Jones and Derrick Henry as your top 2 running backs and no flex. You're putting in Dalvin Cook. Lost David Johnson, not sure to go with. Chase Edmonds in. Oh, that's not good. Balaj, Gore. So Ty Johnson's not there. I'm imagining Leahy. Now, here's one I'm going to toss out for you. I should have actually had him on the bargain running backs. I need to maybe reconsider some lineups now that I'm thinking of this guy. Jeff Wilson, I think, has a ton of upside as 4K on DraftKings. He played more snaps than Mostert last week, had more rushing yards on a couple less carries, had 5 targets to Mostert's 1, got all the money work, more production, and everybody's all in on Mostert. Like, who's already complained this week that his ankle injury is lingering and that he's not going to be 100%. So what if they just turn the keys over to their healthy guy, Jeff Wilson, who looked like a stallion? Is he out there? Because that I would like to stream in way more than any of those other guys. He's only 10% owned, 4K on DraftKings. I love Jeff Wilson for those that are desperate at running back. Lost Gibson, best fill-in, full PPR. Jay Taylor, that's a pretty good option there. Jay Taylor, Deontay, or Dobbins. You got your bye, so that's good. I love Jay Taylor this week. The Raiders are the best matchup there. But you got some great fill-ins there. Deontay, the guy you traded for. Austin, how about that David Johnson trade, brother? How about that David Johnson trade? Love it. My favorite Wolf. Love you, Tim Gray. What's going on? Favorite Wolf since Teen Wolf. Have to sit one of Cooks, Ayuk, and McLaurin. Ooh, need the safest play. Running back trio. Ooh, yeah, that trio is going to smash cheeks. Well done, Tim Gray. That is awesome stuff. Those two, Henry and Jones, in those matchups, you're looking at 60 combined points with those two. If they fall on their faces, that would just be brutal because everything has paved his path for an awesome week 14 for you here. Of these guys, who would I sit? It's crazy that McLaurin's even in this question, and never mind probably the answer here. He scares me. He's not getting it done. With Alex Smith. This is hard. It is obviously still Terry. So it's like, how can I absolutely sit him? I don't know. I think I would sit if you're looking for safety, because McLaurin, even in his worst days, is probably going to get you to 15. I know last week was a dud. He was facing a tough defense. Like, I'll give him a hall pass here. I probably bench Cooks, to be honest. I really like Ayuk. He's probably my favorite of all these guys, to be honest. So I'm going to go Ayuk and McLaurin, and I'm going to bench Cooks on a safety factor. That's where I'm leaning as of right now, Timmy Gray. Always such a shit-eating grin when you switch segments. Just for you, Austin. Give you that shit-eating grin. Quick questions. Ravens D versus Browns or Cardinals versus Giants? Defenses are brutal, my man. I think I have Ravens a little bit higher. I think Baker could implode. Of course, the risk is what if Baker is like finally arrived now? I don't buy it. I think Baker shits himself and the Ravens D does well. But that's a crapshoot. You really got to trust your gut on defenses. Good morning, the Todd Father. New name for Todd every week. I love it, Todd. What's going on, brother? Hopefully you had a good week at school. Getting close to Christmas break. What's up, Aaron Van Deventer? Pick 4 PPR, Drake, Gallman, Sanders, Dobbins, Hunt, AB, Chark. You got a shitload of options here. And you have pick 4. You guys are limiting this shit, Mr. Van Deventer. Gallman and Drake are locked in. They're my favorite 2 here. I love AB this week. I think it's going to be a big AB week. And then it gets ugly. So I feel good about Drake, Gallman, AB. That's where I'm going first. If Ty Johnson is the lead guy, if Gore is out, I think I'm going to go him. If not, I might go give Sanders one more chance. Your first or second round pick. Maybe Jalen Hurst with a little bit of read option sparks him. Could happen, my man, Van Deventer. It's not Barber. Dobbins is a big risk. He's the most talented. I wish I knew he had that role fully back, but it was a 3-headed nightmare. Hunt I don't love behind Chubb in a tough matchup against Baltimore. So Drake, Gallman, AB, and Sanders or Ty Johnson, depending on the news on Sunday. So I know I'll see you tomorrow, Mr. Fullback Van Deventer. We'll make a final call then. What's going on, Mitch? Great to chat with you the other day. Good to see you, as always, to the show. My man Juan Pena, as always, from Framingham, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Who should I plug my wide receiver spots? Due to the fact Julio's out. Claypool, Landry, Juju, Patrick, Gabriel with the Bills. Ruggs, not Ruggs. Fuck Ruggs, not Gallup. You need 2 spots filled. I'm going to go Claypool and Landry, I think, is where I'm leaning here. I do like Gabriel Davis, but I can't see myself benching Landry or Juju for a guy like Davis. So you're going to go one of your Steelers. I prefer Claypool. If you prefer Juju, it's honestly like a coin flip. Which one is better? Juju safer, Claypool ceiling. I always go ceiling. So I'm going to go Claypool, and then I'm going to go Landry just because of how much he's cooking. The matchup's tough, but I think he's back to full health. That rapport is looking good. So I'm going to go Landry, Claypool. If the matchup with Landry scares you, maybe you just double up your Steelers then. Should I keep Taylor in my flex or Williams over any of the receivers? I would go Taylor, and I don't go Williams, not with Jones there. He could have a good day, especially if they get up big early and they're just resting the starters. I like Jamal Williams, but not more than those guys. Played Drake, Gallman, Dobbins, Chark. Oh, interesting. Gray has my man Timmy, and he's a Wolf, so you take this opinion very weigh this one seriously. I would go, AB though. I'm feeling big on AB this week. Lazard versus Boyd. I feel good about Boyd, as I talked about. I think this is his blow up week. Baker Harrington. I'm big into Boyd having a huge day against the Cowboys. Corey Davis or Mike Evans or Jonathan Taylor. Oh, Andres, all very intriguing options. The ceiling's Evans is going berserk. The hamstring makes me a little nervous. I love Taylor against the Raiders. Corey Davis, obviously, last week. It's like, how do you bench him after that, though? But Taylor's my play here. It's where I'm leaning, even in a PPR league. Just jumped ahead by accident. Willie starting Jamal Williams over Taylor, not even an option. Taylor a starter with no way. Aaron Jones going to have another monster game. I think so. Yep, I'm with you there. I'm going Taylor, and I'm not sure if you're responding to somebody here, William, but I'm not going Williams. And Taylor's way over Williams too. I agree with you on all those notes. Ayuk or Crowder, thoughts? I mean, if Crowder's good and he's ready to go, I like him against Seattle, but Ayuk is my 23 and Crowder's my 22. So it's as close as can be. A little bit lower of a floor with Crowder. But I mean, he's been so steady whenever Darnold's in. So I go Crowder, assuming he's good. Big Wiener Beamer. Nice name, dude. What's your take on Rojo, Russell Gage, and Lazard? If it's between those three, it's obviously Rojo, especially with Kendricks out. I love Kendricks this week. I'm not into Gage. He's had like one or two decent days all year. Not into him. And Lazard, they're saying, is like a 60% snap guy at most. Don't like that either. The upside in 60% of snaps against Detroit is real. So if it's between like Gage versus Lazard, I'm going to go Lazard. Ronald Jones is above all those guys, though, in my opinion. The Todd father needs a running back too and a tight end. Gurley, Gio, Booker, Irv, Logan. So for the running back, I'm going to go Gio. I feel good about him against Dallas. And then the tight end, I guess Logan. I know the matchup's harder, but he's just like, Smith loves him. And in tough matchups like the Steelers, he had a monster day. So I go Logan. He's kind of earned it at this point, right? Shades, what's up? Did you ever get your gear? Let me know if that ever got sent out to you, Shades, for winning our one trivia night. Zeke, Rojo, Gaskin, Mostert, or Taylor. You need two. I'm going to probably go Zeke and Gaskin. The upside, Taylor's there. Okay, so Taylor's my number one. Sorry, it's not Mostert. I'm worried about Mostert. That the fact that Wilson's playing more snaps and seeing more targets scares the shit out of me with Mostert. Taylor's the lock, and the other guys are all neck and neck. You've literally listed, Shades, I think, like my running back 14, 15, 16 in order. So you guys, they're all in the same tier. They're all the same levels of upside and floor. I probably go Taylor Zeke because that Cincy matchup's not a bad one at all for Zeke. The calf injury is a little worrisome, so if he's not looking fully ready to go, Gaskin's the safest second option here. And then Rojo's upside is probably the highest of anybody but Taylor, given there's no Kendricks there this week. I love that. I love that there's no Kendricks for Rojo's potential value. So they all have their narratives. I think Taylor's the only one I feel great about. I personally would probably go Taylor Zeke. But the other two options are very, very intriguing too. Tight end from Atlanta, Hurst, about to have a blow up. Why? He's sucked in so many weeks. He's been injured. I mean, maybe with Julio, is that the thing that propels him? It could be. But give me your case. I need more. I don't know that I buy this one, Austin. Need two running backs. Henry, Gallman, Gurley, Gaskin. I mean, Henry, don't even include him. You need one running back. Come on. You're going to jinx him by even including him in these names. And then I go Gaskin. Just safe, steady, 15. Bam. That's where I lean. Wilson is available. I like that, Connor. I think I like him more than the other gross options. Jay Smith or Hurst standard. Thanks. Did I miss the Williams? Jonathan Taylor. Oh, yeah, that's right. Juan Venier. Come on. Jay Smith or Hurst standard. Jonnu against the Jags. I'm going to go for the touchdown there. Pitt steals City. 49ers or Seahawks D. I got to go Seahawks Jets. I mean, what else needs to be said? Jets, Jets, Connor. Always play against the Jets. Need a flex play. Hilton or Kiki? Ooh. Don. Tough one. I might ride this Hilton gravy train. Back-to-back weeks with scores. He seems to have it down now. Yeah, get deep against the Raiders, baby. I like Hilton. 3 wide receivers. Diggs, Thielen, AB, Patrick, Higgins. So Diggs is locked in. Thielens locked in. Again, Anderson, come on. You need one receiver out of AB, Patrick, Higgins, and Sanders. And it's AB for me. I'm a big fan of AB this week. Think he's going to have a big day against the Vikes. He's responding. Someone asked Williams or Taylor. Not even questionable. I agree. Taylor's a horse this week. And Williams could have a good day. I don't mean to put down Williams' upside this week. I think it's Aaron Jones' show. And it depends on, how many scraps is left. Detroit can leave a lot of scraps on the table for anybody. But yeah, over Taylor, Taylor could have a monster day against the Raiders. Wolfpack, that's all we got. That's all the questions. If you didn't already give this a like, thank you so much for considering even doing that for us. Would be so appreciated to help us get out to more people. You can find me at Roto Street Wolf for any of your questions. I will be live tomorrow, 11 a.m. with my man CJ. Sit-start show. It's crucial. The quarterfinals, baby. Do or die time. RotoStreetJournal.com is where you can find everything. I'm updating my rankings right after this. For your Saturday update, I'll update them throughout tonight as well if any other news comes in. Thank you again so much, Wolfpack, for tuning in. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. So best of luck. We will see you guys all tomorrow. All right, Todd Father, fine. Fucking asshole, sneaking this one in last second. I would probably still go Gio. I don't trust that Raiders backfield. And see you guys later. Best of luck, Wolfpack, in your DFS and seasonal leagues.